Now first, I would like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And well, here we are at the
Autopilot
very
disabled.
edge of 2025. Now, I don't know when this will be released. Hopefully, it will be released on the 31st, which should be technically tomorrow, since I'm recording this on the 30th. So, a day, hopefully, a day is going to be enough with my internet to upload this to be on time, because usually I do like to upload this type of video around the same time every year. They've been doing since like 2019, I believe. It's been a tradition kind of to do something like this with every 31st December, or actually with every New Year celebration. So hope you guys enjoy the overall encounters that we had so far. Hopefully more encounters will come, more combat will come. Hope you enjoy the party if you go to a party tonight, or depending on your time. I mean, we all have the. Actually, we don't. Time zones exist. For a second, I almost messed up. anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next year. I've had I have a Evo role nowadays that I assigned to myself, which I do enjoy. So I did fly the Blackbird a little bit. Hopefully I will have some of the Blackbird's encounters in the video today here. But for the first target now, we have received intel, and I've seen a ping on Discord that we have caught a very tanky Raven Navy. Now the Raven Navy is sleepy. Basically the Raven did log out in space with modules active, and when you do that you do retain the tank, and when you force log out in space, and if you have timer and if you have the modules active, the ship will not disappear and you can be scanned very easily. So that's the first Raven Navy for today, and as we can all see so far, we are doing very little damage to it, if any damage to it. The Raven Navy can have a very good passive tank and a very good active tank as well. It's a ship that I haven't been using much over here because I've had the Tempest Navy and I've also had the Megatron Navy back a couple of months ago to a year ago, and they did offer some very good tank, especially on the Tempest Navy. If you go back and check those videos out, that thing was stupidly tanky. Oh, very high shield resistance. Was built to be more of a passive tank with a shield booster that kind of wasn't really meant to be used as a shield booster, but was kind of meant to help the passive recharge a little bit, and it worked surprisingly. Now, what kind of build we have on this Raven, I have no clue, but based on the resistance and based on how much damage we're doing so far, I would guess that this Raven is most likely integrated for tank, and most likely also has a bunch of adaptives, maybe even a damage control, or maybe even some reactives. We will find out hopefully in the next couple of minutes. But we have a bomber and we have an enforcer. Two of our ships, as we can all see, aren't doing well, and there is a succubus joining in, so there is going to be 3 ships firing at the Raven Navy, and as we are seeing so far, very little damage has been done on the shield so far. I mean, I'm doing like 776 damage with my 6 missiles, and to be honest, and to be real, I don't really have a lot of DPS on this ship. I primarily fly the Enforcer for the fact that it has a scanner, it has range, it's cloaky, and I just enjoy using it as a support Evor ship. And for that purpose, it actually does does really well. I have no complaints on the DPS on the ship, because if I want to, I could just enhance it even more. I can definitely enhance it even more if I want to. I can use turrets, cannons, artillery cannons, which I might actually do. I might swap missiles for cannons. I don't know why I went with missiles on this ship. I can use any weapon system on this ship. I kind of wish that the Enforcer had drones, but if it had drones, that would be pretty broken. If it had drones, I would definitely use the Enforcer as a drone boat because of Bombard. It would definitely be a good option, the best option in my case here, because I have quite literally the best skills for drones out of all weapon systems and out of all skills. Drones are basically what I have literally on level 5. On every skill for drones is on level 5. And then I think cannons also have most on level 5, and then I think everything else comes. Missiles are third, I believe, because I used to use missiles because of the orders, and I think I've kept the skills. In any case, the Raven is getting in low shield there. It's still pretty funny though to see how much this Raven can actually tank while being completely AFK, or should I say completely asleep. And we did catch a Marshal a while ago on the same way. The only difference is the Marshal wasn't really didn't really have any adaptives active. They basically just logged out upon arriving at the location, which I don't really think that the same thing happened to this Raven, because they had modules active. But I'm wondering if that Marshal had adaptives activated, how long would it take to destroy that ship? I mean, this is taking a while already, and we are still in the shield, by the way. Still trying to go through the shield. 3 of our ships. I mean, again, to be honest, we don't have a battleship. We don't have a battleship with us. We are basically flying smaller ships. And I would say smaller ships in a fleet definitely feel a lot more fun than just yeeting a battleship at everything that flies. I actually thought to take the Dominant Navy and to fly it in the same way, but I wouldn't really enjoy it the same way I would enjoy with the cruiser or something smaller than that. I feel like cruisers are still the most ideal ship that you can just fly around pretty much anywhere, and a ship that in a small group can take on even larger ships with ease. Battleships feel a little bit boring, and just click one button and implant, and that's about it. With smaller ships, we actually have to put some effort into getting the target to be blown up. And the second the shield fell down, that's when we started to actually do some good damage on the Raven. As we all know, Ravens, as well as other cavalry ships, once they lose the shield, the armor and hull usually just crumbles very quickly, because the cavalry ships generally are shield tanks and they have very powerful shields, but the second the shield fails, the ship just explodes, and that's pretty much what happened with this Raven. Well, that was a long first target. 9.8 billion. 3 adapters, a damage control, and a large generator. And that was a PvP build with scramblers and a chunky passive tank build. That wasn't a generator, it was an extender. Okay, so that was fairly tanky. Decent. That's a decent build actually on that Raven. Very decent build on the Raven. And next, Speaking of ravens, we have a second raven on the menu today. This time we have a bunch of cruisers and a bunch of frigates. Okay, fair enough, I guess. Going to maintain a 42-kilometer orbit around the Raven. Now this Raven seems to be going down a little bit faster than the previous one. I will maintain this orbit. I'm still thinking, I've been thinking for this for months now, I know, if I should just go full tank A Enforcer. The problem is East. I don't have enough East to buy a second one, and I don't feel like, I don't really feel like I want to completely change the build of this one, because so far it's been working really well. But that can always change. I feel like the ship lacks speed. I don't know, I mean, if I want, and if I go put tank, then I lose DPS, and if I go DPS then I lose tank, and you can't really have everything, you can't really have one build to counter everything, which is fine, I guess. You can't really be prepared for everything, but it's just something that's been on my mind. Okay, let me see, 56 kilometer range. I'll just increase the range and I'll just orbit 57 kilometers. The Raven is now into armor. Now this is the moment when something very funny happens. I thought that the Raven did call for backup, and obviously I'm maintaining range, or I'm a long range, medium range ship in this case, and you have new ships appearing local. Now I'm looking towards the sun and towards some of the other objects, just in case something other pops up. And there's something that popped up, a Tempest. And this is where I thought, okay, maybe it's time to just leave. Seems that Tempest came to help. But the second I started to warp, I noticed something, that the Tempest also warped. So the Tempest did not come for the Raven support. They were just passing by, so this was just bad luck and bad timing. Obviously, I'll just come back. I'll just return to the gate. I actually thought that we were being jumped, and I expected a super capital to pop up, because you know, you drop super capitals on 3 frigates and 2 cruisers nowadays in this game. But turns out that was false alarm, and there is the Raven still there. But yeah, the Raven exploded. So we caught the Raven. However, we were attempting to catch the Tempest. Unfortunately, the Tempest did escape. We weren't able to catch up with it. That was a good catch though. 11.6 billion ISK Raven AV, not bad. But in this case, right now we attempt to go and see if we can catch the Tempest. Would be nice if we managed to catch Tempest, but unfortunately that's not going to work the way we imagined in this case. I think we took the... I think we did mess up the gate initially, just a tiny little bit. Nothing too bad, you know, it just happens sometimes that we will mess up the... Okay, sorry for the weird cut. As usual, I have a bad habit of somehow plugging out my microphone while recording, and I just can't explain how that happens. In any case, it so happens that this was also our destination, was also on a path. So, as we usually like to do when we see something quite expensive, quite juicy as we like to say, we like to track it. I mean, there was a system at war up ahead, and we have crossed our fingers. With a little bit of luck, who knows, maybe 1 or 2 ships have forgotten to exit the war mode, and one pass through was neutral, second pass through was neutral, third pass through was neutral, and then this Bane popped in, was Calderi, and our fangs were already sharpened, already ready to bite deep into the Bane. And the second the Bane popped up, Nox tackled the Bane, and you will see a bunch of capitals pass through. Roughly, I think they're roughly the same corporation, same alliance. Now, where are they headed to? I have absolutely no idea. Is there a major battle going to happen? Is there a war? I have no idea. We just roam around, find targets and blow them up. Doesn't matter what corporation, if it's neutral, it's free game. As simple as that. Or in this case, red for Nox. After all, Nox is in a faction currently. No, I am not in a faction, and you might be like, well, why haven't you docked, changed faction and joined in the... Why haven't you joined in on shooting this Bane? Well, I'll just leave that little cliffhanger until the end, because again, I do have a specific role in this case, and I'm thinking whether should I talk about that tactic or should I just shut up about that tactic. I feel like I should just shut up about that tactic. Might be useful for us in the future, so I'm not going to reveal what we've been, what we came up with in the past. But I think most of you will probably figure it out on your own, just based on watching the video. I think you guys will figure out what we had planned to do. But yeah, I'm creeping around, orbiting very close, at 1 kilometer for a specific reason. Obviously, I'm close to the Bane. Now it's a Lancer. Lancers can fit the what was it called again? I mean the Lance Doomsday, obviously, but in one of the more recent updates they have allowed those close-in weapons to be installed on the vast majority of capitals, on the vast majority of dreadnoughts to be more accurate, and I think you can also fit that on one of these things. I haven't tried that myself. Afro test server is offline, so I can't do that, but I'm fairly sure you can fit those cannons on that thing, and I'm fairly sure you can activate them pretty much anywhere, and activating them on the wrong position, for example, would be fatal for the ship. So, we are still creeping around, orbiting. Nobody disturbs us. Fun fact, there's so many Force Auxiliaries pass through, and so many other capitals pass. I think maybe I'm exaggerating, but maybe I counted like 30 perhaps, like 30 different ships just pass through from the same corporation, same alliance, and all of them, I think, I don't know if they have seen or if they were totally AFK, but the vast majority of them didn't react at all on us holding this Bane hostage at the moment. So we have switched to Nox's perspective in the bomber. You can also see me in the Enforcer creeping around. I'm still orbiting at 0. My perspective is in the lower left corner, conveniently placed on top of the chat. One way to actually, I guess, add some privacy in chat, by slapping a video on top of it. After all, I mean, I didn't have anywhere else to place it. I don't want to cover the targets on the upper right. I don't want to cover the modules on the lower right, and the system will be covered anyway with something, with a Bane. I'll just slap a Bane on top of the system. There we go. So the Bane is in roughly about 40, 60, 65% shield. Oh, we have been scanned. That's lovely. That's just lovely, and this is the moment where we thought that our target might be lost. I mean, if someone comes in and interrupts, I might actually have to go change faction and return if we don't want to miss the Bane. This is the moment where things could have went wrong, but as you're about to see, seeing a Bane seeing a enforcer and seeing a bomber on the scanner could potentially be quite scary to witness, and the player that came in decided not to come here, so that's good. That's good. We continue creeping around. I continue creeping around the Bane. Nox keeps sending missile after missile into the dreadnought. I almost said battleship. It's a big battleship. Not a battleship, but a dreadnought. If we go to the real world categories. Now, how much does a Bane have in shield? Like 300,000 or something like that? I know armor can be 800,000, depending on how it's fitted. I'm fairly sure this Bane is probably armor tagged. Nox is using the warhead charge implant, and it seems these are kinetic. Okay, I understand now. Okay, because of the kinetic missiles, the damage on shield will be a little bit lower, but once we go into armor, the damage should significantly go up. After all, that's where the armor resistance will be lower on the Bane. Alright, well, we're still creeping around. I'm actually doing something pretty not exactly. I mean, what am I doing? I'm ramming. I actually thought to push the Bane away from the gate. I mean, what's a cruiser going to do to a battleship or to a dreadnought, right? Even if I do add like 10 meter per second velocity, I think that's still going to be more than enough. At this moment, we have call in for backup in Corp. We have attempted to call in for backup. After all, we kind of expected that maybe the passive recharge, for example, would be too much, and if that's the case, then I would have to go to the dock, to the station, and change the faction, or enter a faction. Oh, look, a Minokawa Apostle, my apologies. Another Force Auxiliary from the same. Actually, it's not the same corporation, but from the same alliance. You might see some from the same corporation. You also will see from the same alliance passing through. And also, one of the things that I wanted to do, I kind of thought if a Force Auxiliary does come back, and if they try to repair the Bane, if they try to save it, if I manage to just push it a little bit further, maybe by the time they come back, it would be too far, way too far, and they wouldn't be able to reach with their repairs. After all, I think they also do have a limit on the range on how much they can reach with the repairs. So I'm basically doing what I can do to push this ship, although they're also moving because they're attempting to warp, but they're pointed, they can't warp, so they will be moving in a direction with full speed, but I'm adding a little bit more to that full speed with my ramming. Or what's that nanocore? I forgot its name. It's not a Dragon Trend nanocore on the Bane, or maybe it is. I kind of can't really recognize it at the moment, but it's a very red Bane, that's for sure. That's a very red dreadnought. Okay, so we are still in shield. It should be much faster in armor. I mean, it will be very fast near the end, that's for sure. But the Bane is slowly falling down. I'm still doing my job. I'm doing what I was ordered to do. I have to keep the fail safe, if we can call it like that. Yeah, I think that's I think that's the right thing to call it. Actually, I don't know what would be the right thing to call what I'm doing right now, but it would play a role near the end. Now, I kind of forgot if the Lancers have received the same recharge buff as some of the other ships have received. I think they did receive that. However, I'm not entirely sure. It's been a while since I actually went and it's been a while since I was on a test server, more than a year at this moment. I don't know when they have decided to turn it off. I know for a little moment it was actually active, and that's when I did record those bodyguards, I believe. But after that, the test server was pretty much gone. Hopefully they will enable it soon. Was a very big mistake, if you ask me, for a test server to be turned off. In any case, back to the bait here. So we are now getting very close to armor. We are getting close to armor, and it's been a while. We have been here for maybe at this moment maybe for about 20 minutes or so, maybe more than that. That's definitely a very beefy shield, that's for sure. That's a lot of shield on the Bane. And shockingly, the Bane still did not wake up. The Bane is still sleeping. We are about, I think, 150 kilometers away from the gate. That needs to be more. If, let's say, a Force Auxiliary does come back, if they warp at 0, that's gonna be a mistake. They will probably want to warp at 100 to be as close as possible to the Dreadnought. But so far, it's been quiet, and we have been chilling here with this Dreadnought. We are still waiting for our backup to arrive. Unfortunately, one thing that is kind of unpredictable, you never really know what you will catch, so you can't really have backup ready all the time, and this was completely unexpected. So all of our other ships or other corps members are quite far away. They're trying to get back here as quick as possible. But it seems we have more company. I'd say Minokawa. There was a Minokawa, but warped. Okay. Now, is this the Minokawa that will stick around? So far, we have seen a lot of the Force Auxiliaries go up and down. A lot of these ships have been going up and down. None of them stayed. Some of them have been in Lancers, bodyguards, stuff like that. However, only one was in a faction. It was this one. Okay, we are now almost into armor. I think that's like 5%, maybe less than 5% of shield left. It seems that the passive recharge isn't that significant, so that's not going to be a problem, meaning that we will not have issues going through the shield. I remember when we have been engaging a passively tanked Raven Navy that was caught logging off. That thing was passively tanking like 3 or 4 of our ships at like 30-40% of shield. We haven't been able to break it that quickly. That thing was tanky. I actually kind of expected the same thing with this Bane. After all, it's a Dreadnought, has a lot of shield. But it seems that's not the case. Oh, wait a second. It would look like the Minokawa returned, and it is in the same corporation, not in the same corporation, same alliance as the Bane. And they are sticking around. So maybe that means support for the Bane has arrived. Alright, things are getting a bit more difficult now, because I think even 2 of us combined are not going to be able to out DPS a capital Loki repairing a dreadnought. If that Minokawa starts to effectively repair the Bane, we will probably not going to be able to blow it up. That's a problem. So, but one saving factor for this right now is the fact that the Minokawa is actually far away, and I don't think that they can have range. I could be wrong though, there are implants for repairs, but the Minokawa is just sitting there, maybe actually moving towards us. Yeah, it does look like the Minokawa is moving towards us, looking at the little window on my screen there, on the lower left part of the screen. It does seem like the Minokawa is moving, and we have even more company. Marzio popped in. Well, Marzio left. Much faster damage in armor now. Much more damage in armor now, so the Bane is falling faster. However, that could potentially change if the Bane starts to get repaired. No, thing is, if they have been in a fleet, let's say the Minokawa and the Bane have been in a fleet, they would already warp, like the Minokawa would already be at 0. But that doesn't seem to be happening, and it seems that they are not in a fleet, but were completely AFK traveling through space. Which, again, that does work in our favor. It does buy us time. We have, I think, like 2 or 3, maybe 4 more ships coming to help us from our corporation, that is. Minokawa is at 162 km from the bomber, and 152 km should be from my own ship, so they're definitely going towards, but it doesn't look like they have any propulsion module, so if they attempt to slow boat towards the Bane, that's going to take a while. I don't see any drones being launched, fighters being launched. I don't see any repair effects on the Bane, so I believe that they're not repairing it so far, at the moment at least. And there is the whole thing with the suspect timer. If, let's say, you are not in a faction and you repair someone who is in a faction and taking damage, you get the yellow suspect timer, and you should be able to be locked, and other players should be able to open fire on that ship without Concord opening fire on you. At least in theory, that's how it goes. I don't know if that's how it actually works. I think it actually does work like that, but we have to test it out just to make sure it's not bugged. I mean, it's Ivekos we're talking about, has a bunch of bugs and stuff in this game. 178, 81, yeah, we're moving away from the Minokawa rapidly. That's no way that they will be able to come to us close unless in a fleet or unless they have a propulsion module, but they're chilling on the gate. Now, we have definitely been busted now. They know that we caught one of their lancers. There's no way that they don't know, and that means perhaps there's more support headed towards supporting the Bane, maybe more Capsuleers, maybe even other lancers will crawl back and attempt to save this ship. I mean, anything is possible. You don't really know what's going on in their chats there. Oh, look, it seems that the Minokawa left. Well, two options. They left the Bane to die. Option 2, they will come back at 100 km and attempt to save the Bane, attempt to add repairs on the Bane. We will see what will happen. We will see what... Oh, look! Anubis! A third party Anubis. Lovely. it looks like we might have some extra unexpected support. Or perhaps a attempt to steal the kill. I mean, it's Eve Echoes we're talking about, am I right? Everyone wants to steal everyone's kill, that's just how it goes, naturally. There is nothing to be mad about, just how it is. Oh, Minokawa, this time the Minokawa returned much closer, so this tells us that they're not in a fleet, but the Minokawa will attempt to save the friendly, or maybe... someone actually jokingly said that it's the 6th alt. If it was an alt, they would probably turn on the main account first, and then work back the loggy. But let's follow. Suspect timer. Okay, lovely. Drones are being launched. Does look like armored drones. So the Bane is armor tank. Okay. And we have. No, wait a second. No. Those are shield repair drones. We will see what will happen once we see the hit points recover on the Bane. Anubis is after the Minokawa. That's interesting. Things are escalating slowly, but they're definitely escalating. It's a free-for-all deathmatch right now. The Bane is roughly 50% of armor. Is the Anubis even doing... Actually no, the Anubis is firing at the drones, I think. Yeah, I think the Anubis is firing at the drones, at the logged drones. Okay, they are shield repair drones. They are now boosting the shield of the Bane. However, those drones are also being fired upon, so if the Minokawa doesn't want to lose the drones, they will have to pull them back in. At least that's the logic behind it, but I think they will risk them. They will definitely risk them to try and repair the Bane as much as possible. Now, I actually thought to engage the Minokawa. I actually thought to engage drones, but that would give me the suspect timer. After all, the rule states, if you have the suspect timer, if you shoot at a player that has the suspect timer, you also get the suspect timer. So that would kind of work against my purpose in this encounter. I couldn't risk being a... Is it an affiliate party, or I couldn't risk losing the purpose that my ship has in this current moment here. Again, we're nearing the point where my ship actually does have some form of use in this whole encounter. Don't worry, we're close to that. So, Bane did get some shield back. But actually, if we were to be honest, the Bane did receive a lot of shield back, because we are a bomber, a cruiser, and a battleship versus 2 capitals. Our damage output isn't going to be enough for the most part against your usual capital ship. Oh, Bane woke up, and this is where my ship gets its purpose, gets its role. Guess who the Bane decided to light up first? Guess who the Bane decided to yeet first? You guessed it right. The Bane fired at the only ship that wasn't in any kind of faction. I didn't have any suspect timer, yet the Bane decided to light up the Enforcer. And this is what happens. My ship's role has been fulfilled. As you have seen what my ship role was in this case. That was funny. I think this was the funniest catch that we've had in a very long time. 121 billion ISK. Yummy. Very nice work. Nox did a very good work, a very good job. Nox actually did catch the Bane, did find the Bane like 20 jumps behind, and obviously Nox deserves to get the kill and deserves to get all the crates for this particular encounter. That was actually beautifully done. That was a very nice work. So, that was the unluckiest Bane, I think, of all time. To get caught like that in a war system, to be almost nearly completely abandoned by the whole alliance, and all the forces that passed through have ignored the Bane, with the exception of the last Minokawa that returned. I mean, I have to give credit to the Minokawa pilot. The Minokawa tried to save it. They did. They tried to save it. And that's what I like to have on the Chameleon. Now, speaking of the Chameleon, we have a Chameleon in the bubble, and this encounter was definitely interesting because this Chameleon was in the system a little bit earlier, I believe, and it was a stalemate. It was a Fiend versus Chameleon, and both ships weren't able to break each other's tanks, so it was a stalemate, and the only thing that was destroyed though were the drones. The Chameleon definitely lost a bunch of drones. But before that, the Chameleon was actually in a Astra, so they came back for revenge. Now, I'm in a Chameleon myself. My job here is to attempt to focus down the drones on the Chameleon, while the Fiend will be focusing down the ship. So, what does that mean? That's a large extender, okay. I will keep blasting the drones. I have a assault drone and a offense drone and bombard, a very good combination actually. My idea was to prevent the bombard on the Chameleon, and in order to do that I actually decided to go after the drones, because bombard is definitely a busted implant, and if the Chameleon's drones are constantly being under fire, then the Chameleon is unable to apply the bombard. And there's the drones again. The Fiend, not the Fiend, the Chameleon is using offense hammerheads, and I'm trying to focus them down as quickly as I can. The shield on the Chameleon is in about 60-65%, I would say. I'm doing some good damage, although the Chameleon is definitely pulling the drones back. One drone did pop. That leaves us with the other drone, which is taking some hits. But the Chameleon pulled them back again. Okay, I didn't manage to destroy one drone. They are now in about 45-50% shield. Seems to be a passive tank. All three of our ships here are tank builds. So we have the 3 tanks fighting currently. Okay, drones are out. This time they launched a prototype drone. That means they don't have another offense drone, which means I'll just try to focus the other offense drone. The Chameleon also tried to get my own drones, but I'm also quick on pulling them back in. And this is a 2-on-1, so we do have an advantage, and the Chameleon is a passive tank, so slowly they will go down. And so far the idea, the tactic, seems to be working just fine. We are managing to do some... Well, it does take a while, definitely. It's not a... We're not like burning through the chameleon in seconds. We definitely are doing some damage. Once the shield on the chameleon goes down, it should be a easy target. Okay, offense hammerhead out and the proto hammerhead out, but the chameleon is in very low shield now. I'm waiting for Bombard to return so that I can load Bombard and launch the Bombard at the drones. They did pop a extender. Let me just quickly set the Fiend on overview just so that I know what's the status of the ship. It seems in a good condition. Okay, the Fiend is holding really well. I launched my drones at the chameleon's drones. The chameleon pulled them back in. They did actually manage to boost a little bit of shield back, which is interesting. I mean, it's a chameleon, they have some fast recharge. They did receive that buff some time ago. But the next Bombard hits, and yeah, now the chameleon is taking some armor hits, armor damage. They launched the drones again, which means we'll have to focus on the drones. Our Fiend is holding really well, about 50%, 45% shield. The chameleon is now into armor, into mostly armor. And yeah, I don't think I need to focus the drones anymore. I can just go and focus on the ship itself, and the chameleon got destroyed. Well, that's actually that took a while. I have to admit, that definitely took a while. That was a good catch. Well, was the revenge worth it? Well, no. At the end, it just happened that there's just another loss. So yeah, revenge on the chameleon failed. Let's take a look at the value of the chameleon. 8.09 billion. Well, that's not a bad build, actually a decent build. I like that build. It was a PvP fit chameleon with a lot of cargo. Why did they carry this module? There's a lot of stuff inside that cruiser. Some very good loot actually. Some very good loot actually, not going to complain about that. That was a very good catch. Next, let's go and see what we have. I think we have another... I'm fairly sure we have another... It's not a chameleon, it's a Gila, I think. Let's take a look. Yeah, it's a Gila. Okay, let's warp. I took the Stratius because if I remember correctly, last time I encountered a Gila, I did fail to catch it because they were using a long-range kite build. So I knew back then I should use a Stratius for occasions like this. So this time I will attempt to be a bit smarter, and I did take the Stratius, and I would say it's a good decision. So let me find a good warp in. Well, they're orbiting. They're using a micro warp drive. I would say it does look like a micro warp drive. So I have to be a bit smart if I want to catch this cruiser. So I will have to go and do a little bit of intercepting. Since they're orbiting, you can tactically position yourself in such a way that they fly towards your ship.
Warp drive active.
I am a slow Stratus. I'm not catching anything moving fast cloaked. Even if I'm decloaked, this thing is slow, so you have to rely on other tactics. So there's the trajectory that they're moving. They're orbiting, I would say about, looks like a 25-kilometer orbit around the ships, which is, I would say, a normal orbit for a long-range kite, well, medium-range, long-range Gila. They're fast, definitely not slow. They have full shield. Okay, let me attempt a intercept. Luckily, because of their position, they will fly right towards me. That's why they took this warp out, because Yeah, this is exactly how I imagined it would go. They're flying right towards my ship, making it pretty easy for me to gain distance and get really close, and at this moment it's already too late. Gila got caught, and let me just launch all of my drones. Going to approach to 0.
We're under attack.
And Gila in armor. And once the shield goes out, usually it's a very easy catch afterwards.
We're under attack.
Okay, let's take a look at the wreck, and well, not bad. They did have a red scanner. However, scanner is not going to work against cloaky ships, so they couldn't see me creeping around. And that's why they didn't warp out. If they did see a signature, they would probably warp out, but
warp drive
I was
active.
close, played a little smart, and was a nice catch. This is why I like to fly the Stratos. It's such a good ship for content like this, for a cruiser or something. If you can find a mission runner with the Stratos, it's just a very easy catch. Okay, not bad, decent catch. Did it have a scrambler? Did look like kind of a PvP build, but I wouldn't really use that myself. But you know, it's a good catch either way. Okay, let's go to the next target. We have a Nereus 2. Now this is something that happened quite funny.
Warp drive active.
I was transporting some things. I was moving from point A to point B, and it just so happens that I was crossing the system here, scanning, and I just saw a signature. I saw an Nereus. I thought to myself, okay, they will warp, but then I scanned again, and they didn't move. So I decided, let's check it out, and it seems this Nereus is a little sleepy on the gate here. I mean, I'm not going to say no to a Nereus, obviously. Scrambled, I'm going to gently orbit at about, let's go 0. It's a transport ship anyway. Now this interceptor did see some... This interceptor did see some combat before. This is the same interceptor that I used for the Nullstar Chrome a couple months ago. And this interceptor, I think I have a Raven Navy mail with this interceptor a long time ago. I think that's what happened. So that's pretty much the same ship. Nereus is now into armor. Well, this is going to be pretty funny if this Nereus is loaded with stuff. If the Nereus is loaded with items, that's going to be a good catch, I would say. A very good catch actually. The only drawback that I have with this ship is it doesn't have a lot of DPS, which is, wow, I would usually expect that. I mean, even have the wrong implant. If I had the warhead charge, it would be different. There's definitely a lot of benefits for me to get the warhead charge implant for bombers, for interceptors and stuff like that I usually fly. Or ships that I would fly. I mean, I don't know if there's any other ship going to be launched into the game. So that's left to be seen. Also looks like a golden nanocore. I mean, I do have a feeling that this Nereus is going to be... pretty loaded with stuff, so... So maybe a good loot drop. I know, actually a long time ago, almost half a year ago, I did have a outpost. I got a bestower that carried an outpost. Unfortunately, the outpost did not drop. So yeah, that was quite the missed chance there. But But I did manage to catch the beast. It was a very good male, 15 or 17 billion, something like that. It was a good catch. Well, one more hit should do the job. One more missile impact and the Neros should be destroyed. And Neros destroyed. Well, let's see what we have in the... Let's see what's inside of this ship. 3 billion. Well, they did okay. They did carry some planetary materials. I'll take it. I'm not gonna complain about that. It was a good catch. 3 billion free, basically. But I can't really pick that up, so I guess I'll have to. Hire a transport ship for this job. I'm definitely not going to leave the wreck in space. It could be interesting to see how much value there is, and after taking a look at all the stuff inside, it's about a billion ISK, I believe, of planetary materials, which I still need to sell. So if I manage to, actually, I will get that out probably, and I will sell it. But yeah, it was a fun little catch. Now next we have
We're under attack.
a Raven Navy. Okay, that's interesting, and they did immediately go and they did aggro. So we are at station here, so engaging at the station right now would be pointless. Pretty much both of us can dock. My idea was to see if the Raven will follow me, track me, and if they do track me, maybe I'm going to be able to lure them out of Zero from the station. But there is also another problem. The station is rather large, so Zero is actually a wide area around the station, so that idea is probably not going to work. So the other option is to try and get the Raven Navy to follow me around, which would be actually a solid idea. If they can leave station, if they go to a planet or something like that, that would be a ideal position to catch the Raven Navy. I'm just trying to figure out where should I go. They're still launching missiles at me, but I'm outside of the range, so they're not reaching my ship. So where should I go? I could go to, actually I can go to the gate. To the gate is also a bad idea, because they can jump. We want to ensure to catch the Ravens, so we have to be, as I like to say, a little bit smart about this one. Okay, they stopped launching missiles, which means that they might be preparing to dock. So let me do something stupid. Let me just warp the planet and let's see
Warp
if
drive
they follow.
active.
That would be pretty interesting if they follow. Okay, I have warped. Let's see if the Raven follows. I'm prepared to have dual guidance disruptors. And let's see if they follow me over here. Well, they did follow, but they missed the planets. Planet 10, and it seems like Raven has been engaged. Perfect, so let's find Planet 10 and let's go to Planet 10. Okay, so they are... Seems that they are pointed at the planet. Where is the planet? And there it is. And let's... Wait a second. No, this is not planet. Okay. For a second I thought I was at planet 10. I'm not. I think I'm on planet 7. Yeah, this is 7. 10 is down there. So let's... Why doesn't the game let me warp? Click. There it is. Finally it works. took a year for... Why is the UI so glitchy all of a sudden? I was trying to click on that like 5
Warp
times, it didn't
drive
register.
active.
It's so weird. Alright, anyway. Now we are in warp. I don't know what was up with that. I tried to click, didn't open the menu for some odd reason there. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens to the Raven. Okay, there they are. 61 kilometers, that's decent distance, works for me. Going to quickly enter orbit. Bombard loaded, drones yeeted. And let's see what happens. I'm going to orbit at 32 kilometers and then slowly going to keep approaching. They're using tactical missiles, it seems, based on the red icon that I saw there. Well, that Raven's losing shield rather quickly. I actually expected the Raven to be a bit more tanky, but I guess not. Seems like a glass build. The Raven is now hunting my drones. Let me pull them back in. The assault drone is much faster, obviously, but that's fine. My goal here is to apply the tracking, the guidance disruptors, which will cripple the missile performance of the Raven and significantly reduce the damage that our ships are going to take from the missiles on the Raven. Okay, we are now in armor, taking a lot more damage as expected. After all, Ravens and cavalry ships usually are not good armor tanks. You should not armor tank a cavalry ship. Never ends well. Well, in most cases it doesn't end well, but you know. Low armor, okay. I'm going to change orbit to 23. Some decent hits now, okay. Disruptor range. My drones are taking hits, time to pull them back in. Turn off my warp drive so that the drones catch up with the ship, and a couple more hits and the Raven will be blown up. Very low, well actually 30% hull, there it is, the Raven Navy destroyed. Well, that was a good catch. That was a good catch. Let's see if we can catch the pod as well. We can. Let's take a look inside the wreck. Well, okay, I'll take it. Some C-types we could use, I guess. Not bad. And let's see the value of the Raven. 8.85. Well, that's not a bad build. I just don't really see how. Actually, okay, it explains why it wasn't that tanky. DPS rigged with resistance modules, but that wasn't enough though. For the Navy ships, if you go with tank, you go full tank. I wouldn't mix a extender and a booster. That doesn't seem to work that well. I usually go full passive or full active, but never mixing both, because if I end up mixing them, somehow it usually doesn't really end up performing really well.
Docking request accepted.
Obviously is going to be traumatic. Now, keep a close eye on the name of the coveter, because it's going to be very important down the road in this video. We got this coveter, and it's going to be very interesting to see what ship comes after the coveter. That's what I'm saying. Keep in mind, remember the name, because again, today we had a lot of revenge attempts today. That's kind of what I talked about in the last video. I talked about a lot of players returning basically for revenge, and it's a good loot drop though. Singled out miners, those are expensive. Not too expensive, but you know, 1.8 billion value for a ship like that's pretty decent. Definitely pretty decent. That's definitely a And good catch. Okay, let's vanish. Oh, I have a drone. Usually I don't have a drone in the cells because it's kind of useless. And definitely can mess up the cloaking with the cells. Now, when I said remember the name, what do you see here? Oh, an Anubis, and the Anubis came for, you guessed it, for revenge. So, seems they're already fighting. Let me just put the Ralsink on the watch just in case. Oh, that's a huge hit on the space pen. Let me quickly get close to the Anubis. Good thing is this thing is ridiculously fast. This is a very fast Celos. So am I at least going to show up on the kill mail? That would be pretty decent if I show up at least. Okay, within range and 78 kilometers. And I guess I got the Anubis. I got the mail, unfortunately. Now you might be wondering, why did the Anubis just pop in here all of a sudden? Well, that's the same pilot that lost the Coveter a couple minutes ago. They came for revenge, and they also DM'd me that I should stay here. We stayed here, and we got a little present, 25.4 billion ISK. Anubis is pretty good catch, not the highest value Anubis that I've seen. I think my highest Anubis was like 37 billion or something like that. Full B types. But still an Anubis, still very expensive and kind of a rare ship. So yeah, good catch though, and they did say that they would, I guess, return. So yeah, another failed revenge, I guess. Still pretty weird. Out of all ships, they decide to come back in Anubis. Out of all ships, they took the least tanky one out of the bunch. I mean, for revenge, I would personally use a bomber battleship or something like that. I would use something tanky, you know, something very tanky. Those ships are, I would say, perfect for revenge. Anubis and all of other ships like that, and we have some salt as usual. Okay, well, let's go to the next target. We have an Orca. Oh, that's going to be a juicy one. A Orca, and I'm flying the Abaddon bomber. So okay, so I'm not okay. I thought actually that this video will be like Domi Navy primarily, but it seems that we have some other ships on the line as well. And there is the Orca, nice and tackled. Let me approach. I'm slow, so I mean, not like I'm going to move anywhere with this thing anyway. Slow boating it is. It's a very slow ship. Does feel like it's a tanky one. Although oh, never mind, I actually thought no, in whole, not really sure if it's moving on its own or it's being bumped. I think it's being bumped. Well, what do you think? Will the Orca drop something expensive? Well, 5.7 billion, not bad, you know. I kind of, to be honest, I kind of hoped for what was it called again? The beaver module or something like that. What was it called like that? Really have any tanky airship of my own. I usually fly them full DPS and speed. No, this is actually a fairly decent. Actually, I take that back. 43 kilometers. When I initially landed, I thought, yeah. I thought to myself, this ship is going to warp off. No way that I'm going to be able to catch this Macarial on time. And I think they did attempt to enter warp. However, somehow I did manage to get within range, within pointing distance. And the Macarial has been pointed. For some reason, three of my disruptors just didn't activate. It's happening quite a lot actually. Thankfully one did, and one was enough to hold the Macarial from warping. Now let me... Why are my disruptors not working? I just noticed that. I clicked on them like 5 times and they just don't want to work. That was the first bombard cycle. Now that Macarial did have a extender or a shield generator. We will see that. Hopefully we will see that in the build. But it actually did take 2 bombard cycles to... Actually, I take that back as well. The Macarial did take 2 full bombard cycles on the shield, and the shield did survive. On a little bit, but it did survive, so... That's a very good shield tank. That's a very good shield tank on the Macarial. I'm taking some shield damage as well, but this is a navy. You know, navies do have a little extra on shield and armor resistance, so I'm definitely going to be a bit more tankier than the usual ship, even without any tank mods. Well, that was a generator, beautiful, and it does seem like this Macarial might have had a decent tank build. Now, it wasn't an active tank, obviously, it was a passive tank, but it did take some time for me to actually go through the shield. Now, usually, a Macarial is...
Warp drive active.
Usually a Macarial is a 2-shot for the Domi Navy. This Macarial wasn't. 3.9 billion. Okay, solid passive tank, full resistance, triple adaptive, a reactive, a generator, and a damage control. Interesting. However, no tank rigs. Well, as you could see from this little example, fitting in such a way helps a lot with survivability, and I usually say a proper tank is going to win against a full DPS ship if you can't break the target
Warp drive
within
active.
Your ship's duration, or should I say within your ship's lifespan, which means until your ship hits hull. Yeah, you're probably going to lose that battle, and usually a proper tank is going to win against any DPS built ship. It's been like that for a while, and from
Docking
my
request
personal
accepted.
experience, it is pretty consistent as well. But overall, I did have... Wait a second. Did I get a DM just now? I'm very interested to see what the DM is. Now, first, 472 million ISK is the estimated value. A rare web, alright, I'll take it, and a rare damage control. Well, if there's one thing that has been pretty decent so far, it's been the loot, I guess. At least from the first encounter. Now, do we want to make bets what the DM will be about? Is it going to be a normal DM, or will it be soul? You know, I don't want to I think we know what we're about to see here in the DM. You know, it's kind of a tradition. Yeah. Okay. That's a weird DM. Not gonna lie. Anyway, let's go to the next target. I'm not really sure if that DM was solved, but from what I've gathered later, some of you guys told me as well that there was quite the drama in help chat because of what that encounter was there with the Macarial and stuff. So yeah, welcome to Eve Echoes, where the primary loot will be that salty taste, that salty material that you find when you take the seawater and when you evaporate the seawater, the material that stays, you know, that salt taste, the material that's called salt. That's pretty much what it is. Anyway, we have a fairly rare ship, a Scorpion. I have to admit, it's been a very long time since I've personally seen a Scorpion. But here we are, and obviously I did have to include a rare ship. You don't see a Scorpion that often nowadays. Now, this Scorpion has no shield, but has full armor. Which means two things: a bait Scorpion or a badly fitted Scorpion, which would be a bit sad. Yeah, it's an armor tank Scorpion. That didn't take long. After all, it's a tier 9 ship, but in any case, with Scorpions, you don't really know what the ship will be. They used to be, I am not really sure if they're still popular bait ships, but they used to be popular bait ships a couple years ago. Maybe they're still popular ships, I'm not entirely sure. All I know is that it's been a very long time since I've personally seen one of these ships. I actually looked at the corporation log, at the combat log. I wrote in Scorpion. The last Scorpion that we found or which we destroyed happened all the way back in March, I believe. And before that it was like August or April of 2024, so it's on the rare side definitely when it comes to this system. Both of us have been busy, and then a Balagorn popped in. Now, this Balagorn was a Apocalypse Navy before. The Apocalypse Navy got destroyed. I wasn't there to participate in that, but it was a very, from what I heard, it was a very difficult fight. And it seems that the Balagorn returned for revenge. Now, one of the next videos that's going to be coming up hopefully very soon after this one, the main topic of that video will be revenge, because that whole video is basically having ships attack us basically for revenge. More on that in the next video. But this Balagorn, I personally think, came for revenge at the Apocalypse Navy before the Balagorn was blown up. I wasn't there. But I managed to get there on time for the Balagorn. Now we are in smaller ships. I'm flying the Enforcer, my friend is flying a bomber. And I think we all know by now that engaging a Blood Raider battleship, especially Balagorn or Azazel, with a smaller ship is definitely tricky. The Balagorn doesn't matter if the Balagorn like lost its charm. It's still a Blood Raider, and it will still pose a threat to medium-sized and smaller ships. Now, what I'm trying to do here, I really wish that I had my Ortrus, because if I had the Ortrus, this would have been a very easy catch with the Ortrus. Although I don't really fly the Ortrus that much. I should change that, because I think the Ortrus is definitely more suitable for ships like the Balagorn. But in any case, I'm maintaining distance. Balagorn's webs have 29 kilometer range, approximately 29.8, I believe, something like that. The Nosferatus could potentially deplete my capacitor up to 50 kilometers. So 50, I would say 50 would be the safe distance. 51 would be the safe distance,
We're
which is
under
still
attack.
within my optimal range with the cannons. You can definitely notice my capacitor taking dips. I do have a tracking disruptor, which thankfully I did pick up. Usually, as I mentioned in previous videos, when I'm in a fleet, I actually attempt to fly my ships, mostly as a Evor / scan support. I don't really like to be main DPS. I personally prefer to have the more background support role. It's what I enjoy, really. My DPS is usually not too low but not too high. It's in between, basically. We have other ships that will do the DPS. I'm there to tag along doing some E-War. After all, I mean, we are covered with DPS aspect in the fleet, but we also need to be covered in the Evor aspect, and that's where I come in. I did take a little bit of shield damage. My capacitor definitely taking the largest hits there. I've been thinking, if I go and change the overall layout of the rigs on this ship, would I go and put some integrations? Yeah, some capacitor rigs would actually be very helpful for the Enforcer. And here I actually try to conserve capacitor because I'm already at 53 kilometers, 54 kilometers, and the Belgorn should not be able to hit me at this distance. I have a general unit for tracking on the tracking disruptor, so the overall laser tracking on the Belgorn should be low, and I'm also orbiting. It should be slightly above the range. I think the Belgorn has like a 34 kilometer optimum range, hitting up to 43, 45 approximately, I would say, so I should be safe. Now, we lost points on the Belgorn, primarily because of the Nosferatus and the range. And I would actually say something that I would personally do if I were the Belgorn. I would actually put one Nosferatu on the bomber and the other Nosferatu on the Enforcer. That way the Belgorn will still get capacitor, and that way the opponents would also be constantly losing capacitor. And I just noticed that was actually pretty close. I warped really close
Warp
to
drive
it.
active.
Now, I don't know what medium slot modules the Belgorn has. I know they have two Nosferatus. I would suspect at least one web, and the rest either disruptors or scramblers. So, since I'm not stabbed, I must not get webbed and scrambled. If I get webbed and scrambled, I'm dead, pretty much. So, with this ship, I have to maintain a certain distance. If I get caught, I die. As simple as that. Now, here we are engaging the Belgorn again. And there's one more ship in the local popping in. There, the Nosferatus applied on my ship. I actually like how the Belgorn does attempt to cap me out first, even though technically the bomber should be able to keep the points on at 1% capacitor. Okay. Now my criminal timer is over, so let's just go and keep on chasing the Belgorn. I only have the weapon timer, so I should be good. The original idea was to make the Belgorn get aggro. I actually made a little mistake. At first I did read that and hear that a little bit too late. My finger was already clicking on all the modules, so on the very start that was a little mistake I made. But you know, Belgorn did aggro the bomber, and the Belgorn did get a criminal timer, which means that we have plenty of time. Now they went to the planet. Obviously they did not go to the gate, although there was a chance that they would attempt to make us go to the gate and get blown up by the gate guns. That didn't happen though. That didn't happen. Even if we do warp at the gate, we don't have a timer, so not a big problem. And this is 60 kilometers. Okay. Now, in a chase like this, it's actually important to get a accurate warping, and this is where the Ortros would actually come in handy. Maybe, you know what, if I go and get the warhead
Warp
charge
drive
implant,
active.
I would be able to fly the Ortros with that implant, and I would technically be able to get some interesting DPS on the Ortros as well. So I may get that implant, the warhead charge, and I may go, and that's actually a very, very bad position.
Warp drive
Thankfully
active.
this thing is fast, so 2 kilometers I landed right on top of the Balgorn. So if I go and get the warhead charge, I could fly the Orcus more effectively. At the same time, if I go and get the tactical missiles, I might be able to point ships from a very long distance, and I would be able
Warp
to
drive
add more
active.
points to the targets with the Orcus or with the bomber. So I actually have 3 implants that I kind of want to use, and the dilemma is high because I don't know which one to pick. All 3 implants would benefit me a lot.
Warp drive active.
That's such a very difficult choice to make, not gonna lie. I don't know, definitely a very weird position to be in. Well, we are still trying
drive
to
active.
catch the Balgorn. Warping around. I'm actually attempting to get to the bomber because I believe the bomber is right on track for the Balgorn. Okay, there is the Balgorn. Let's decloak. The Balgorn repaired armor a little bit. Let me attempt to get within. I almost forgot attacking this raptor. That would be a bad thing to happen. 36 kilometers. Yeah, they are locking on. It seems they are focusing on the bomber. Oh, nope. Famous last
We're
words.
under attack.
They're not focusing on the bomber. They are focusing on me now. Alright, okay. Now this is the first hit I took. I was close. And I would say that was a lucky hit. Shouldn't hit at this distance. It wasn't a big hit still though. I lost about 30% shield. So not a big deal. But I have to be careful. The Balgorn is now into hole, and this is about the moment where things are getting a little bit, you will see what I'm talking about. There is a reason why I decided to make this this chase a video of it, because the last couple minutes were butt clenching, not gonna lie. So, bomber got destroyed, primarily
We're under
because
attack.
Nosferatus did its thing, and webs was, I would say, bad luck. And Balgorn is at a very low hull and still repairing armor. My capacitor is running dry, and they seem to be tanking. Now there is the question: would they be able to out tank? Well, it does seem like they are. And this is where I actually attempted to get better transversal, but I mean, it's a battleship I'm shooting at, so I'm still going to hit without problem.
Shield down.
Extremely low hull, but the last hit did the job. And I was left at 7% shield. That was a close one. I didn't have enough capacitor to use the damage control. I tried, didn't let me. I was missing capacitor for that. Good thing is I am using cannons, and with cannons you don't need to use capacitor to actually do any, to do any damage or to use them to fire. So that was that little encounter, and I just wanted to make a separate video because it took a while actually to catch this Balgorn, and this felt old school. This felt like the good old days. This whole encounter felt like the good old days without implants and without nanocores. And I gotta admit, this was one of the more fun encounters that I've had in a while. It was a good catch. They definitely had. I felt those resistance. They definitely felt tanky. Not tanky as not tanky as not the best tank, but it still felt tanky for adaptives. Don't worry about that. I have an issue with my modules just not responding to my inputs. I click on a module and that happens. I turn on the remaining 2 adaptives, and now combat in progress. The Rattlesnake has been bubbled successfully. I'll orbit at my optimal range. The thing with the bubble, with the Fiend in this case, I can safely orbit outside of scrambler and web distance on most ships because after all, the bubble keeps the ship from moving. So I'm not really too worried about that. I can just orbit at my optimal distance, optimal range, and let's see what happens. So the Rattlesnake is, well, still asleep it seems. I can tell that based on the amount of damage that I'm doing. It seems that the Rattlesnake does have a lot of and now I think they are starting to turn on the adaptives. So things are getting things will definitely get tricky from this point on. No, I am fairly tanky. I think I have on average like 88% resistance on this ship, so fairly tanky ship. I'm not really worried about bombard. I'm not really worried about all of these things because of high resistance and a lot of shield hit points as well as a good booster and a very good speed tank. After all, I'm using an afterburner, which means I can be quite speedy. And Fiend with an afterburner, I mean, Sansa ships have bonus on afterburners, so having them speedy isn't a big deal. Now they actually have sentry drones, which means I am not going to be able to take any damage from the sentries, so that's not a big problem. However, I'm a little bit worried about the Tempest. I think the Tempest might be in trouble. The pulsars are definitely, they can be very nasty, even at close distance. If the Tempest isn't moving, we might lose a ship here. I didn't click the, oh well, yeah, okay.
We're under attack.
Okay then, let me see what I will do next.
Attack.
Well, I'll continue orbiting, full speed. I don't think I can break the tank on the Rattlesnake, or I could break the tank if the battle does last a while, because I'm not taking much damage. I can just safely orbit and wait for the shield booster to destroy the Rattlesnake capacitor. They also have a Nosferatu, but that Nosferatu isn't really going to be a threat for me in this case. I'm still shooting at the pulsar, even though honestly at this moment, now when I think about it, I should have just went for the ship. The pulsars wouldn't really do much damage to me, but yeah, I guess I wanted to finish off the drone. Didn't want to leave the pulsar just at low hit points. Now the Rattlesnake is down to 1 sentry, pretty much halving the incoming damage, potential damage. But they slowly boosting up the shield, and I'm still orbiting. I'm thinking, what's the next smart move going to be? The Rattlesnake has 2 options. The Rattlesnake can maintain the combat, can maintain fighting and risk me getting reinforcement, or the Rattlesnake can decide to return back to the gate and jump. I would say jumping back would be the smart thing to do, because I have a bubble on, I have a bubble up, and technically, if I want to prevent the Rattlesnake from warping, bubble has to be up. If I want to prevent the Rattlesnake from jumping, I have to turn roll. So This is kind of a little chess game here. And we will see what Razik will do as the next move. Now I have two options basically. For now, I can keep the bubble up. We are fighting basically. Both of our ships have timers, so both of us can't really jump anywhere. And even if we want to jump through the gate, we can't because of the weapon timer. If the Razik decides to stop firing, I will probably turn out the bubble, and then I will monitor to see what the Razik will do. And this is where things can be tricky, because one little mistake on my end and the Razik will escape. At the other end, if the Razik makes a mistake, if they're too fast or too rash in what they're doing, I can keep following them and I can keep bubbling, and then hopefully I get more reinforcements to destroy the battleship. Now, I would say that Razik is effectively tanking me right now. And yes, I have no nanocore, I have no implant for this thing, I'm flying old school as I usually do. Do I really need a nanocore? No. Do I really need an implant? No. I think this thing is working the way it should be already, so I'm not really, I don't mind the low DPS, I don't mind the low nanocore, just pure ship and pure... I'm just going to rely on the ship itself, not on magic tricks, so... Still maintaining orbits, we are still exchanging fire, Rasik's firing with missiles and lasers at me, I'm firing with lasers. However, the difference is, I'm taking practically zero damage because of speed tank. The Rasik though is taking some damage, and in this case I'm actually in the better position because I'm a faster ship, faster little cruiser, so... I'm not really worried about the missiles or anything coming from the Rasik. Even Bombard isn't really worrying me with this thing. I also have a defense mode, which further would enhance my overall resistance, which is a very nice thing to have. Fiend does have a defense mode, which makes the tank even better. Kind of a extended damage control in some cases, but extra 20% resistance is always going to be beneficial. So over, I think 91-92% resistance with the defense mode on the ship currently. So the Razik stopped firing at me. I stopped firing at Razik as well, and I'm also watching to see if they're approaching the gate. Oh, and they jumped. Okay, that means we will be following and we will be jumping in. Now the good thing is, even if they decide to run around, I'm still going to be able to catch them. There is no station around, and that's a fairly large system at the other end, and I'm still a cruiser, I'm still faster, so I will give chase, I will keep following the Razik, and let's see what they do next, where they go next. There they are. Now I'm not going to open bubble immediately, I'm just going to see where they're going next, and it looks like they're approaching back to the gate. Okay. So, that was, I would say, the smarter thing for the Razik to do. Oh, actually, no, they warped. Alright, well, let's give chase. Next gate. I am in a cruiser, so my warp will be faster. And in general, my
Warp
overall
drive active.
velocity and everything else will be faster. So, we're chasing. They returned to the gate, and then they went back to the previous gate, which could potentially be a mistake on the Razik's part, because I can just follow deeper into null and I can keep bubbling them. At the other side, at the other end, you know, could be a smart thing, depending on how you look at it, depending on the idea, I guess. That's what matters the most. Now, I did cancel the jump because I don't really know if they will follow with the jump. If they jump through, I'll just follow them, and oh, they jump through, okay, let's follow. Now, I can catch them effectively on the other end of the gate, and I might actually do that. We will see, depending on what the Razik does next. If I see them aligning to the station or to the other gate, I'll just bubble. And if I see them going back to the gate, I'll turn up bubble. So, a little bit, that's kind of a little game that we're playing right now. They're going to the other gate, bubble up, and warp prevented. So, let's orbit and let's open fire. Okay, so they're bubbled at this side of the gate. Their modules are off. Okay. For now, they didn't turn on the adaptives and reactive hardener. What are they doing? Okay, they are burning back to the gate. Alrighty then, bubble off, Nosferatu off, and let me go back to the gate as well.
We're under attack.
Oh, actually no, they opened fire. Alright. But I'll should I actually let's just keep bubble up for now. They have timer, so well, once they stop firing again, I will drop bubble and I'll stop firing, so that our timers are pretty close, so I can also jump through the gate if I have to. So far, we are exchanging fire again. I mean, it's an Alsink. They obviously have good shields, and especially reactive is especially good against weapons with dual damage types. In this case, EM and thermal in my case. So yeah, I would say that Alsink has some very good defenses against lasers. I also have some good defenses against drones and everything else, so we're kind of matched in that aspect. Okay, let's see. They're still firing and missing. Now they're using a sniper guard. Okay. I'm taking a little damage from the missiles. I think they're using the large missiles, although I'm not entirely sure. We will see later, hopefully. And we have a red coming in, alright. Hidden name. It's interesting. Not really sure who that could be, but I will maintain firing for now until the Alsink stops firing at me. Then that's where I will also stop firing. Basically, I'll attempt to match the Alsink's timer so I can jump through and keep the bubble on the Alsink, even at the other end of the gate. So pretty much this Alsink is potentially in a lot of trouble, because I'm not going to let the Alsink go, only if I mess up. And we will see more on that a little bit later. Things definitely will be a bit dynamic today. Well, at least, yeah, it will be dynamic, I guess. Okay, bubble off, everything is going to be off. The Alsink stopped firing and bubble is disabled. They will attempt to jump through. Yeah, they're definitely getting close. They'll also do the same thing. I'll also do the same thing. I have a whole system of room. Actually, no, they might actually force me to use bubble, and then they might jump through the gate, and that's where things could potentially be problematic. So, okay, bubble up again, and yeah, they jump. So potentially losing the Alsink here. Didn't really have much option. They could have went to the gate or to the station, and that would be pretty unfavorable. Could have went to the other gate. I could have followed to the other gate. We could have continued following it, but maybe a mistake on my part. Maybe I should have just let them warp and then catch them on the other side of the gate. But don't worry. I actually thought that the day was about to be ruined here, because there was already some good 15 minutes of good chasing. I'm waiting out the weapon timer, and then I will keep following. This is where things get interesting, because at first, originally, I thought that the Alsink already escaped. I thought that I missed the target. As you about to see, when I jump in, you will see that the ship is still in system. Now, I actually thought, okay, they have enough time to go to the other gate, go to the next null system, and then basically just go exit in low sec. I thought that they will do that, but something different happened here. Now, I immediately went and gave chase. I immediately went and warped. I know that this particular Alsink doesn't seem to have a very low warp speed, but what I initially thought was them being in the middle of warp. Turns out they actually did log out in space. They made a bookmark mid-warp. They warped to the bookmark in mid-warp, and then they decided to wait out and safely log out there. That's what pretty much happened, because I'm already closing in on the gate. In this case, if the Alsink jumped, if I jump now, I'm catching them. There's no way. The Alsink is just that slow. I can jump, even if I'm behind couple seconds, I can jump and still catch them. But I jumped and system was empty. Now that means two things. The Alsink could have went to a different gate, but the scanner did show something different. The scanner showed the line of the signal basically came pretty much from the direction of this gate right here. And then I thought, well, okay, they have had to have logged out in space. There's no other way. So I jumped back, and I'm about to open a scan. I did have a signal basically in the middle. That was the Alsink. They did warp there, and they basically decided to log out there. Now I have a signal here, and I will probably attempt to go and, if the game allows me to actually go there, there's a signal, mid-warp, pretty much 9 AU from the gate. Now could be that they logged out on gate right here, and that's also a possibility, but since the yellow timer is over, the ship disappeared in space, so the last thing is technically vanished. And here I said to myself, okay, yeah, I was a little bit angry. I was definitely a bit angry at myself for kind of maybe misjudging the situation, or maybe it was actually
Warp
a
drive
smart call,
active.
because from what I know, could have warped to the station, and basically, you know, if they dock, that's it. You can't really do anything about that. But well, just when I thought that it was over, just when I thought that they escaped, something funny happened. Now I already have the crew on position. Thankfully, they did have enough time to arrive on time. So now we have quite a few ships here ready. If the Racing does return, we will be separate all over in different systems. We know the name of the palette of the Racing, so if they pop up, we will have ships on every single gate there is. And it's not a big deal to just spread a couple ships and see where they go and have a tackle ship, and then I can just come in and do the bubble, because after all, that's my job. My job is to bubble things, and my job is to tackle things. Bubble is the best tackle, so if the Ralsink is spotted, we can quickly go and catch them, and thankfully the Ralsink got spotted. Now they did jump back to this system, and I was already in warp, and there they are. I arrived just on time. Now the thing is, I already immediately went for the bubble, because again, with this particular Ralsink, we know that it has a very slow warp speed, very slow warp acceleration, so I had enough time to bubble them and catch them. They have been caught, they have been bubbled, there is no warping now. We have a bunch of ships all over the place on both sides of the gate, so the chances of the Ralsink jumping back in and playing the gate games is now... It's still possible to see that, you know, but I would say it's not as likely that they will escape now as it was likely before. Well, they are burning back to the gate. That's the next thing. Actually, no, they have opened fire. All right, they have opened fire. They have timer, they don't have timer anymore, they stopped firing actually. And we will spread our forces on both sides of the gate. We can follow, we have fast ships for following, not a big deal, we can follow. If they decide to warp around, we can follow. The chances for the Ralsink escaping now are very slim and very little. Just have to play it properly now, have to be careful with what I'm doing. Must not let the bubble be too far behind. Now we have the ship tackled, and we are doing some, well, I mean, we have a bunch of cruisers and a bomber, and we have an Ralsink as well. Okay. Now bubble is off, because I will be prepared. I will have to go and jump in the next system, because I feel like the Ralsink will attempt to jump gate, and that's what they will do. That's probably the only thing they can do right now. I'm not going to aggro, I'm going to wait, because I must not aggro. One aggro and we might lose them if they jump through. I'm just going to be ready for the gate jump. They're close to jumping though. I will be ready to jump to follow. I have no timers. Any moment now they will probably jump. There we go. Okay, let's follow, jump through. Going to bubble both gates. There is no running now. Chances for the Ralsink escaping are close to zero. Only if I messed up, that's the only possibility. Okay, burning back to the gate. Bubble already going to be launched up. And let's aggro the Ralsink. Their only way back is through the gate, where we have like 5 ships waiting for them. So, yeah, no way to go now. The gate games are not going to work. Okay, we see that they're returning, burning back to the gate. We have ships on both sides, already with a bunch of disruptors, scramblers and all stuff that can tackle. We have enough points to hold them, I believe, so chances for them warping off are close to zero currently. Only if we mess up, basically, but that's also not that likely to happen. I'm turning off the bubble. Let's see what they're doing. They're burning back to the gate. I'm also going to go back to the gate and be ready to go in. They are boosting back the shield. I'm going to orbit gate, approach the gate to 0. And they also have the new nanocore. That's good to see. My timer almost over. They are going to jump. Okay, couple more seconds and I am going to follow with the jump. By the time, there we go. Okay, let's go. And where are they? There's the rattlesnake approaching. Bubble immediately up. And I'm going to go for a ram now. Now they must not burn back to the gate. This is pretty much the moment where I think it's game over for the rattlesnake. I'm going in for the ram. Full speed, full afterburner speed. They'll attempt to burn back, but nope, not today. I could have rammed before. I could have done that, but now it's actually the safer thing to do. Because the chances of him messing up the ram is close to 0. And now we'll play the ramming game. They're not going to be able to go anywhere now. Second ramming attempt. Full speed. Low shield on the rattlesnake. They are now to armor. And once the shield on a Gurista pirate ship goes down, armor and hull is pretty much paper. Well, that was a pretty fun little chase. It was a 25-minute chase. I actually enjoyed this a lot. Doesn't have to be 45 level implant, magic nanocore, stuff like that to be fun. Just a little bit of smart play and just a little bit of ship knowledge, I would say, is enough to just have a blast in this game. It was actually really fun. 3.4 billion, not bad. They did have a reactive and dual adaptive, plus natural resistance. Yeah, felt tanky for a lasers at least. A very good job on the whole crew. It was a very well done teamwork, and I pretty much enjoyed this a lot from start to finish. It was a good chase. Don't worry, there will be more Fiend action. Next one is going to be also pretty interesting, I would say. But with that being said, hope you guys enjoyed. Am I lagging? I'm lagging quite a bit, not gonna lie. Both ping and both other, I guess, other issues. My ping has been atrocious lately. If you've seen some of other games I play, you actually see the ping. It's always in the red. So yeah, horrible ping
Warp
on my
drive
end,
active.
and obviously horrible weather as well. Over here where I'm going to live. Already going to snow in a couple days. Lovely. I hate snow. But the Ortrus has been tackled. So there is the Ortrus. Let's go after it. Let's rush the Ortrus. I have sweet drones for the Mordu Legion cruiser. I do love the Ortrus. I love to have the Ortrus as a target. I also love to fly the Ortrus. Such a good ship. I need to go back to that thing and use it a little bit more often. However, Bombard is going to remain Bombard, and that Ortrus got eaten alive by the drones. Yikes. There are a couple of ships that I don't like to engage. The Domi Navy is one ship I don't like to engage. Prophecy Commands are definitely on the second list, and Myrmidon Command battlecruisers. They are nasty. They're both tanky passively and actively. If you have a passive or active tank, both work. And they have a disgusting amount of DPS with the with the bombard implant. I do
Warp
hate
drive
this
active.
implant, even though I use it. I don't know. I'm not a fan of one-click magic button full DPS implants. I'm a fan of the old school evacos, of the old school of the combat system without implants. I'm still hoping that implants are going to be reworked so that they're more balanced and actually, and that the game actually is more similar to what the game used to be back in the day. But I'm still playing it, so you know, at the end of the day, it's not a big deal. It's just like a thorn in your eyes, right? You're just poking your eye, even though you still enjoy the game. But I guess no game is perfect, which is fine at the end of the day. Honestly, I expected a lot more risk out of the Orcus based on some of the other ships that I've seen. I think from that
Warp
point,
drive active.
I actually expected at least a 9 billion ISK Orcus, because I think last time when we caught a ship like that, we got a 9 billion one. That was a lot, not too early, but that was actually a long time ago, I believe. It was quite some time ago. So yeah, that's the.
Docking request accepted.
My expectation wasn't really met with this order, but you know, not a big deal. Still a very nice catch. Always nice to catch a Mordu Legion boat. Next, we're warping to something. Serpentis Explosive Ruins. Oh, I do remember what's
Warp drive
I
active.
know what's about to happen here. Oh, I definitely know what's about to happen here. Okay, okay. We have a Pacifier. Lovely. So, Pacifier is right over here. Now, it smelled bait. I think the Pacifier was a fiend earlier, although I didn't really have enough time to play, and then when I scanned, they already left the system. So that's what. But the Pacifier is still a relatively rare ship, and it's a Concord ship, which means that the Pacifier will have a nice little price tag attached to it. So always nice to have such juicy ships around, and I'm definitely not going to say no to a Concord frigate. Now that's a micro warp drive. That's a very speedy Pacifier. I'm in an afterburner of it, so it will be quite problematic for me. I need to be very, very careful to be close. However, I'm not really worried. I have friends for support when it comes to a more difficult tackle like this. It's always safer to launch something equally as fast as a Pacifier. In this case, that would be a little interceptor. So I'm just waiting patiently right now. They're definitely opening the boxes. I'm getting a little bit worried that they might be already finishing up. I'm just pretty much praying at this moment that they don't warp off. But it seems they are not warping off. They're actually doing something I did not quite anticipate, and they're doing something I did not quite expect. They went and tackled the interceptor. Now that's a big mistake, primarily because the interceptor will be several times faster than the Pacifier. Pacifier will have close range weapons usually. Definitely is not going to be able to catch a very fast slasher interceptor that's going to be orbiting at quite distance. So they're permanently pointed, long range disruptors. I'm too slow, but my drones are not too slow. I don't have to tackle the Pacifier in this case, because it's already tackled. I can just leave the drones do the work, and Concord frigate has been destroyed. Nice. Let's take a look at what we have in the wreck. Could be expensive, could be a cheap build, you never know. However, one thing is for certain, it's a Concord frigate with a relatively large market price. Oh look, disruptors. Now my interest is piqued. I'm actually very curious to see the build of the Pacifier. Was it a PvP build or a PvE exploration build, or was it both? Well, let's find out. 7 billion is not bad, about what we expect on the market. Well, one long-range disruptor and... Well, I guess it was exploration plus PvP, or maybe even baiting into the exploration sites. Although 1 point for 1 point, I feel like 1 point is a little bit too low. Even the exploration frigates are usually stabbed, so I would still go with a Stratius for hunting these, for hunting exploration ships, because I can have a blue scanner and I can also have a bunch of scramblers and even a red scanner if necessary.
Docking request
But it was a
accepted.
good catch though. No timer because we caught a ship with a timer, so I can immediately dock. That was a good catch. That was a fantastic tackle and a very good catch at the same time. Okay. Let's go and see what we have next. Now this is a ship that I started to fly quite recently. It is a Abaddon bomber. Now I kept saying this for a while, that I used the Hyperion bomber primarily because I had a core for it. A repair and a core for it. Basically extra 75% repairs. And the repairs on that thing are pretty insane, pretty crazy, able to repair like 50,000 armor every cycle, every 4 seconds. But when it comes to the overall tankiness, I would still say that the Abaddon bomber is definitely the tankiest and chunkiest bomber battleship in the game. It has a very high natural resistance on armor, coming from the skill bonuses of course, but most importantly, you do get energy neutralization resistance bonus from the skills, which I would say is probably the rarest skill bonus that you have in the game at the moment. So this ship is kind of perfect for extremely heavy tank, and also very difficult to cap out a Abaddon bomber because of the resistance on E-War. Now we have a Balgorn, just perfect. I mean, this is the most perfect and ideal target for the ship because again, energy neutralization, energy warfare resistance. So resistance on Nosferatus and neutralize. Of course, the Balgorn will still be the most powerful energy neutralization and energy Nosferatu ship in the game because it's a Blood Raider after all. But with all the resistance and stuff like that on E-War, nanocores, in this case implant, and plus on top of that the skill stuff that you get with the Abaddon makes the Balgorn a little bit underwhelming nowadays, which is sad because Blood Raiders used to be one of my favorite ship class in the game, favorite overall faction in the game. But hey,
Warp drive active.
I'm flying this thing, super tanky, super chunky, relatively cheap builds. I might go wild in the future on the Abaddon bomber, depending how long it lives. If it does keep on living, I'll keep the build, but if it ends up being blown up, which I expect to happen actually, then I will probably change the build on the Abaddon bomber and slap some more expensive rigs on it and get even more resistance out of it. But overall, very certainly can tank up to a Dreadnought quite easily with the stats that I roll on this thing currently. The Balgorn has been caught, and let's go and approach. Let's approach to 0. Webbed, I have a Scrambler as well. Obviously you have the Citadel module, which I like to call the Bastion module because the bomber battleships in this game are kind of the Marauders of EVE Echoes. Technically they would be the Marauder class in EVE Online, but in this game I guess they decided to call them a little bit different, and they decided to use a slightly different hull. But overall, I would say when it comes to tankiness, the Abaddon bomber is probably the tankiest and the best. When it comes to tank at least. Armor, very energy saving, because its armor doesn't use as much capacitor as shield. And on top of that, you do get the bonuses on capacitor through the Citadel module. On top of that, you also have a huge capacitor, which makes it just perfect for a super heavy chunky build for maximum resistance and for tank. Or in short, a perfect ship for me, because I love tanky ships, which is a little bit sad. I kind of wish I picked a nanocore for the Abalone back in the day back when we won the Burning Night nanocores. I wish I picked one for myself. I wish I took two for myself. I would definitely pick the second one for the Abalone. But hey, I still have the Hyperion. I might actually sell the Hyperion. The only reason why I haven't done that yet is because I have the nanocore for it, and I just don't want the nanocore to sit there idle. So I guess I have the nanocore on the Hyperion because of that, or because of that reason. In any case, the Balgorn is now trying to empty my cup. Well, good luck with that. Good luck with that. That's not happening. And funny enough, I have a Blood Red nanocore for this ship, which does enhance the efficiency of my Nosferatus, and I have two of them. So this is kind of a pretty evil build currently, because it's capacitor stable, 100% capacitor stable on 100% capacitor, with dual Nosferatus and extra efficiency on the Nosferatus. So from top to bottom, this little ship is pretty much specialized for tanking in this case, and I love it. I do like how this thing runs so far. It's a very, very fun ship to use. I love it. And the Balgorn has been destroyed. Okay, now my DPS might not be the highest on this thing, but honestly the DPS, it doesn't matter, because it will outlast literally every other battleship. You fight by outlasting your opponent. That's how this ship is built, and you can definitely outlast all of them because of the ridiculous tank that it has. 3.7 billion ISK Balgorn, not bad, actually not a bad value, decent value. Good catch, and that was actually pretty fun. I wish I had the ship, I wish I did fly this ship earlier, because there's been some occasions where maybe me flying this ship would end up in a better result, in a better outcome. But hey, I mean, now I'm prepared pretty much. If I wasn't prepared before, now I am pretty much ready. Now I am pretty much prepared for most situations. One situation that I am not prepared for would be super capitals, I guess. But honestly, if this thing gets super capitals dropped on it, that's just peak salt already. So that would be. It wouldn't matter really. I mean, if that happens, it happens. I don't care really. You can't avoid these ships forever. Eventually, you will stumble upon a super capital. Yeah, actually, we eat both. You know, we are hungry for some battleships. So I went and I will engage the Domi. Let me tell you, I don't like to engage Domi navies, especially with a cruiser, because if that thing wakes up, I'm in trouble. Because I think we all know how much DPS a Domi navy can have. I mean, I fly that thing and I'm able to one-shot navy battleships with it without much of a problem. So what's a cruiser going to do if the Domi loads bombard, right? Perfect. My friend caught the Abalone, lovely, and I caught the Domi navy. Well, fingers crossed that these ships don't wake up. And oh my god, this thing has the, I think that's a Silver Waltz nanocore or something like that, which is I think it's classified as a one-click escape nanocore. I forgot really the stats on that thing. I know one of these nanocores has some effect to nullify webs or something like that. I forgot if Silver Waltz does that. I think it does something like that. Maybe not, maybe yes, I have no idea. In any case, the Domi navy is slowly losing its shield. I think this Dominix is an armor tank. I mean, usually a Dominix is an armor tank. I fly mine as an armor tank, although I have technically no tank, but I use the damage control on armor because it's like a land ship. They should have some decent armor volume at least. Well, nearing the end of the shield, my friend blew up the shields on Abaddon. Obviously the Abaddon will have a lot more armor resistance, and since it's an Abaddon bomber, we already kind of expect that thing to be tanky. So it's kind of... both of us are kind of trying to rush to blow up one of these ships as quick as possible, but the Abaddon bomber especially is tanked. I mean, it has resistance to armor and probably built for tanking as well, so the dummy will probably die faster than the Abaddon. I kinda wish that I had more DPS, and this is pretty much the moment where I decide to kind of separate my ships into two. If I had torpedoes, if I had the torpedo enforcer, I would be doing a lot more damage to the Dominics. The reason why I went with a kite build is because when I flew the torpedo build, I was pretty much always way too far off from the enemy ship. So I took a kite build so that I'm able to actually hit something. Now it's actually the other way around. Now I could actually go close, but I don't have the build for that, so that kind of sucks. But oh no, one of them woke up. This is where the fun begins. So, actually, the dummy did not wake up. It's the Abaddon that woke up. Alright, that's good. The chunkier ship woke up. It's not a big problem. It's actually the better outcome, because we can blow up the Dominics. We can't blow up an Abaddon bomber that decides to repair. There's no way. Especially once the Citadel repair module starts to kick in. There is no way that a bomber and an enforcer can break the tank of an Abaddon bomber. And that's impossible, especially if it's properly tanked. Well, that means we will just go and finish off the Domi Navy. The Dominix is losing armor. It's at about, I don't know, 45% armor or something. It definitely feels armor tanked. We will see at the build later on, that's for sure. I mean, if we destroy the Dominix, we will take a look at the build, obviously. And now, with the two of us shooting at the armor, the Dominix will start to go down faster. And now, some of the damage is actually going through the armor into hull. We just have to pray that that thing doesn't wake up, because let me tell you, I definitely do not want to eat a full bombard from a Domi Navy. Even though I have a damage control, these things slap. I know because I fly one, and I'm able to delete a Navy battleship in a single bombard cycle. There we go, Domi Navy blown up. Beautiful. That's one ship. Now, unfortunately, if the Abaddon was sleeping, we would actually, you know what, we might go to the Abaddon. 10.69 billion, that's an armor tank, but a passive armor tank, and it looks like a PvP build, so yeah, that's a good catch. That's definitely a good catch, and looted. So, next thing would be, oh, that was close. That was very close. The Domi Navy also woke up, but let's see where the Abaddon is. Still there. Still close, still there. 10,000 kilometers from the wormhole. Yeah, they were ready to go into wormholes. Maybe they live in the wormhole space, I don't know. But they definitely went and attempted to go through the wormhole. So let's see if we will engage the Abaddon. I mean, we will try. Why not? Let's have some fun, I guess. Let's have some good old fun. I actually, now, before I started to record the video, in the current runs that we've done, I actually changed the build on this ship a little bit, and now I'm actually built for E-War. Same fit, but now I have some E-War on this ship. Two dual tracking disruptors, which work really
Warp drive
well
active.
with some general units. So if I had that built now, things would probably be a little bit different when I think about it, because the Abaddon, obviously, I think the Citadel module does give you extra tracking. So if I significantly lower the range of the pulse lasers on that ship, I would be able to avoid taking any damage. I'll have to
We're
double check the
under
stats of the Citadel module. Yeah, they are definitely doing some damage, and
Shield
that's at
damage.
62 kilometers. I kind of expected that, honestly.
Shield
I expected that
damage.
ship to have
Warp
a
drive
lot of
active.
range and, I mean, a lot of tracking, since it's an Abaddon bomber. They do get a bonus on tracking, and especially with the Citadel module, they will be tracking. So pretty much the moment when I decide, you know what, I'll just go and fit some Evor on this thing. Maybe I will extend the range. I have a lot of different options that I can go with on this ship, including going with integrations on missiles with range, flight time range, and overall rate of fire. Because I would love to get a lot more range on this thing. If I could get a 100-kilometer range with my missiles, that would be perfect, because I would be able to properly kite. And that's maybe the thing that I'm going to do next. A proper long-range kite build on the Enforcer. I mean, I do have
Warp drive active.
modules to play around with. I could do that easily. I do have general units that can help me with that, so... And obviously, one thing I forgot to mention, this thing is slow. The Enforcer is absolutely on the slower side. This thing is really slow, even with a micro warp, one of the slower faction cruisers in the game. Second slowest after the Stratius. The Stratius takes the cake of being the slowest. Now the idea here was to, since apparently the Abaddon is unable to track the bomber, so the only damage that the bomber is taking is coming from the drones. So the goal here would be destroy the drones, and then we should be good to go. But unfortunately, this is not a good position for me, especially with this ship. If only I had... That's actually the next thing I'm going to do when I log in. I'm actually going to go with integrations and slap some extra range and extra rate of fire, and I will change the low slots as well. Basically, I want to... Basically, what I want is at least 100-kilometer range on the Enforce with missiles, with the long-range missiles. If I could get that, that would work really well, and that would be perfect.
Under attack.
88 kilometers, and they are unable to... Okay, yeah, definitely range is the way to go. I believe that's the next project, I guess. Or maybe even a third Enforcer that will be built for range. I don't know. I have so many different ideas, but limited amount of ISK.
We're under attack. We're under attack.
Now they got the criminal timer, although I don't really think that the Abaddon will actually attempt to warp off, because they don't really need to. Not much. A cruiser and a bomber. Yeah, they hit at 75. Okay, damage control
Warp
up,
drive active.
and goodbye. Oh well, I mean, not much that we could do in this case against that particular ship. If it were something different, if it were something with no tank and with less tracking, probably would be able to do something more, but unfortunately against that particular ship, yeah, the
Warp drive
Avalon bomber
active.
just... the Avalon bomber. A very, very thick ship with very thick armor. Or literally in this case, very thick armor. But we caught the Dominavy, so that's good. I'm not going to complain, the Dominavy is enough. The Dominavy is more than enough, actually.
Warp drive active.
Not going to complain, they're still here and they still have the criminal timer. I mean, if they go and... if they go and decide to actually warp to a gate, they're going to get gate gunned and we will loot the wreck. But yeah, I mean, it's time to move on. That was fun though. That was definitely fun. Okay, well, it's... I think they have warped to the wormhole. I think they warped to the wormhole.
Warp drive active.
Actually, was that a wormhole or a hidden rift? I believe it was a wormhole. Yeah, this is something there. This is something else. Okay, the planet one. All right. Okay. Well, not much we can do now against an Abaddon. Well, maybe, you know, if I had more range it would be different, or if I had tracking disruptors or something like that. I mean, there's just, you know, you can't really be prepared for all the things at the same time. You can't really have all the counters against all the ships. You will have something that you will not be prepared for, and that's fine. That was fun nonetheless though. It was a pretty fun experience. Next. Now, this is probably the funniest chase that we've ever had so far. We have been following a marshal for I think like 5 or 6 systems, and it just happened so randomly. Like we saw a marshal and we decided, you know what, let's just track it for a little bit. Let's see where the marshal goes. And we tracked the marshal, tracked, and eventually, guess what? The marshal logged out in space. And there it is. I couldn't believe my eyes when I actually saw the ship just warping off, and we have been catching ships logging off for a very long time now. We're actually quite good at that. We became very good at catching logged off ships. So catching a marshal is definitely something that wasn't on my menu today, that's for sure. Out of all ships that I expected to see log out, I did not expect a marshal to do that. But here we are, blasting a marshal, and this thing seems to be quite hanky. The shield isn't really taking a lot of damage. Well, I mean, it's not taking a lot. We are doing some decent damage to it. I believe this marshal is a shield tank based on how much damage we're doing to it. You know, when we were experiencing this for the first time, I feel like it feels like the ship was tankier, and that's probably because of the adrenaline pumping. Because if that thing wakes up, we are in trouble. Because it does appear like this marshal is on the tanky side of things. It does appear to be on the tankier side of things, but we are now into armor and it has the new nanocore as well. Well, that nanocore does look good. Now we are into armor and I believe it will... Yeah, we are doing a little bit more damage now on the armor on the marshal. it seems like this ship does have a shield tank. It's a question how good the shield tank actually is, because we are engaging the ship without any adaptives on, and the real question is how rigged is that thing? We will find out very soon. Reaching hull, actually no, we are already reaching hull. Some good heavy damage on the hull. Yeah, that's a lot of damage on the hull. Okay, perfect. And Marshall destroyed. Beautiful. Let's take a look at the wreck. Let's see what's inside. Let's see what is inside. That's one very expensive battleship, that's for sure. The Marshall is one of the more expensive battleships. Costs as much as a Rorqual, I believe, in IP. Or something like that, like over 100 billion ISK. That thing is very expensive. Okay, looted, and let's take a look at... That's a destroyed ship. That player is in for a surprise when they log in. Okay, let's take some screenshots. Not every day that you see a Marshall like that log in space. Yeah, this is going to be the thumbnail, I believe. This looks like a thumbnail right there. Let's see, 121 billion, not bad. Torpedoes plus rapid missiles. I was never a fan of mixed weapon. Oh, that's a heavily shield tanked armor shield tanked ship, and integrated as well. That's a lot of integrations, and that's a lot of webs. That's a lot of webs. That's interesting. Yeah, we wouldn't be able to break the tank on that thing. Even one shield booster is actually more than enough to repair a lot.